Hello friendos and randos, welcome to part 2 of the tier list video where I cover basically every other leader that is meta or rogue deck in OP05. Make sure if you haven't watched part 1 to go and check it out as well, and let's hit right into it. So on that note, I wanted to bring up the two other blue leaders that I wanted to highlight, Nami as well as the blue Crocodile. I think both of these decks are very good in the meta as well. The main issues that you have against the meta decks right now, I think, are the Katakuri as well as the Red Green Law and Zoro. So the main reason they're over here is that these three matchups are not very good for them. But both of them do pretty well into this line of play as well as the new gate here. Nami especially did really well at the Japan regional finals. At the Japan regional finals, Nami got first place for the entire thing. I think beating two Red Green Laws on the way up too. And the Nami player was very skilled, using a build with both Buggy and Apis to set the bottom cards at his deck. And I think they countered very perfectly with regards to how to hit those cards at the exact right time in order to be able to deck out correctly and efficiently. So it was a very impressive display of skill, I think. And Nami in general can always just play around their own game plan and not worry too much about what you have. And if they high roll, then they just win. So yeah, at the moment I think the top 9 decks in the format are probably these 9 over here, with a very clear buff, I think, as to how good they are compared to the rest of the decks in that are down here, for example. So the next few decks I wanted to talk about are some of the decks that did top in the end in Japan, but I don't think are still at the same level as the rest of these decks here. And those two decks are Ace, Luffy as well as his brother Ace. So these two decks did receive a top, I think Luffy got top 4 and then Ace was also top, I think 8 at the regional finals. So they are both very strong decks. They have their strong matchups as well. For example, Ace is pretty good into Rebecca as well as Red Green Law, and I think the matchup with Whitebeard is fairly even. And then Luffy has a pretty good matchup into the New Gate as well as the Red Green Law. But other than that, I'm not super familiar with the deck as well. I think they're probably a bit above VV here as well. The main reason, of course, is red as a color in general is really strong, and Ace has that removal going for him, being able to consistently remove your units. The 7-cost Ace is a very powerful card, especially to remove board. So that will always make it a very powerful card too, a very powerful leader too. Other than that, the red Luffy has that consistent 6k aggro, and then being able to hit you consistently with Rush Zoro, Rush Luffy, and then after that, later on in the set, he also got the ST10 Rush, 10 cost Rush Luffy too as a good finisher. And before that, having that new gate to increase the defensive potential, as well as having that big body to always keep removing your board, is very good as well. Not only that, of course, these large units are also on the tougher end to remove for most decks, like Newgate or 7-cost Ace. They're actually pretty tough to remove, with the exception of, I think, Blue having Red Rock and now Katakuri also having the 8-cost Katakuri. These units are pretty hard to deal with, and then even if you do manage to deal with the rush units, for example, for Red Luffy and Ace, they've already done their job. Like, they've already hit you once or forced you to burn hand cards, compared to if you were to play like a vanilla, for example, and Ace were to Flame Emperor it, then that vanilla has done nothing but cost you 6 dawn of tempo. So at the moment, these are the other two red decks that I think are pushing the top tier. But as again with the restrictions in EN, I think they hit Ace really hard. The 4-cost Mako and the Radical Beam were very huge events for very huge cards for Ace, and not being able to play those at 4 is actually very painful. And I do have a friend in Europe who is consistently topping with Ace still. I think top 18 and top 19 at 2 of the European tournaments. But still, I think it will be tough heading into O4, especially with the buffs that Katakuri has received. And I think the matchup into Queen as well as Crocodile as well as Green Purple Doflamingo are really bad. Ace in particular into Green Purple Doflamingo should struggle if they draw the 10-cost Doflamingo, because Ace is not known for having very wide boards. He would just have the 5-cost Mako as well as the 7-cost Ace and his leader swing. And if you swing with all 3 and you get all 3 of them stunned by 10-cost Doflamingo, it's pretty much over for you. So that being said, I think these are probably the key meta leaders that you'll see. Other than that, some other leaders that also seen were the Black Luffy at the start of the format as well. Black Luffy had a pretty good time into the meta where it was mainly Whitebeard and Green Purple Doflamingo, being able to remove bots and then after that swing with a bit more aggro using your leader effect was really good. And then there was also a Dressrosa and Cypher Pole hybrid deck for Black Lucci. So this deck revolved around using Air Door and Spandam and Rebecca to fuel your trash, and then using 7-cost Luffy with King Kong Gun in order to finish games out. So it was a reasonably powerful deck, but I don't think it was as good as just playing pure Rebecca. It was a lot less consistent. It was very high rolly because you did have to land your air doors, of course, and you didn't run as many targets as standard air door Lucci either. So yeah, I think that was the other deck here. Two of the other decks that were pretty good as well. And then looking at the remainder of the list, I think there's only a few other decks I wanted to talk about. Next is the Yellow Lin Lin. So Yellow Lin Lin would be probably around here or here. She's basically just a slightly different version of Katakuri. I will stand by my opinion that I prefer playing Yellow Lin Lin to Katakuri, but I think Katakuri is just very good if you consistently hit triggers. But my opinion is that with Lin Lin, you can turn that consistency up to 11 and always just set your own triggers. But I see the rationale behind it not being as powerful due to needing 2 Dawn to set your triggers and incentivizing you to take life early in order to set those triggers. But I've seen the successful Lin Lins in Japan as well, winning several flagships with it, and also getting close to the top card. Although it didn't manage to hit the top card in any of the tournaments, I also think the representation is probably a lot lower than Katakuri, for example. Okay, and then I think the last notable leader that I wanted to talk about is probably Doflamingo, the Blue Doflamingo. So Blue Doflamingo is probably eclipsed a little by a Blue Crocodile in OP04. The main reason being he didn't really receive any buffs, whereas Crocodile got more generic cards that are very good. So Crocodile can play things like the Who's Who engine, the Animal Kingdom Pirates engine, and then he can play the 10-cost Kaido as top end. He also has Red Rock as a new removal. Whereas for Doflamingo, because his leader effect is locked to the 7 warlords, it forces you to play a significant amount of those in order to use your leader effect effectively. And then if you aren't going to be playing those warlords, then you might as well change your leader to something with a more generic effect that you can use all the time. There were also cases of like Nami being built like Crocodile. So the leader effect was essentially this leader can play Nojiko, and that was a different way to approach deck building for blue decks as well. I personally didn't test it that much, but I did see that it did win a tournament or two. But again, there is only so much time to test in each format, and then there's definitely a lot of decks that haven't been explored to their fullest potential yet. But from my opinion, I think these are probably the strongest decks in the format at the moment, and you probably won't see much else in your top cards. Some other decks that would probably make it to the rogue deck slot are decks like Black Yellow Mum, Riki from the Manchi Kaizokudan, which is a YouTube channel as well. They are pretty popular in Japan. Riki is a very consistent player. He was the one Z player that made it to the best 4 in Tokyo, and I think he made it to the best 8 in the OP03 Asia Championships as well, the regional championships for Asia, where some of our Singaporean representatives went there to play too. He did manage to get best 8 with the Black Yellow Big Mom. So this was a very, very interesting build, I think, that he played as well. I might actually be mixing this up with OP03 now that I think about it. But either way, I think Black Yellow Mom does have some potential, especially with the new 9-cost Yamato. I played a few games with a very funny build revolving around 10-cost Kuzan, boosting your 9-cost Yamato to very, very high cost removal, as well as healing yourself. But I think that is probably a meme build for another video. I think it does have some potential as a meta contender, but at the moment, because of the poor matchup into, I believe, the Katakuri as well as Red Green Law and Zoro, it doesn't really belong high up here anywhere. And then lastly, I think it's also Magellan. Magellan has a really good matchup into both Yellow and Whitebeard. And I think the matchup into Rebecca is pretty good too, especially after the ST10 upgrades that he gets, like Heat as well as the 7-cost kit. He definitely can be a contender for maybe a high tier rogue deck. But at the moment, at least, he still doesn't make the cut in my opinion. Still struggles into the Red Green Law and Zoro matchups, and I don't believe that, if I'm not wrong, Doflamingo is also not a very good matchup for him due to the large blockers that there's no way to remove. Since 9-cost Kaido only hits 6-cost units, he won't be able to clear the 7-cost Luffy. And the Tesoro, the only way he can remove Tesoro is with either the 9-cost Kaido, setting yourself back quite a bit, as well as like Brachio Bomber, for example, which is not a very good card either. So these are basically the decks that you'll probably see the most often in OP04. You can see the top tier is very clear, the middle tier as well. And then I think the rest of the decks at the bottom here probably fall somewhere along the mid to unplayable line. Maybe Yamato would fill up this slot as well in the rogue area. I did play against a few Yamatos that did run the new 9-cost Yamato, as well as Pound, for example, trying a stall strategy in order to prolong games, as well as get you to hit into their 6k leader repeatedly. They have their removal with the 9-cost Yamato. But I still feel like it's not as good as the Katakuri or even the Lin leaders yet because of the lack of 10-cost Big Mom. Okay. That being said, I think other than that, there's only the rest of these leaders to talk about. I think Film Kit is also a contender for like this last slot in Rogue. I believe Teru, who is a very renowned Kit player, was very good with Kit. He did top, I think, one of the tournaments. I believe it was a 3-on-3 tournament, because Kit does still have a very good matchup into all three of these leaders, the Newgate as well as the Zoro, and sorry, not these three, Newgate, Zoro as well as the Yellow Katakuri. But at the end of the day, it does just feel better to play the Film Doflamingo instead, because you are basically playing Film Kit, but you have additional tools like the 4-cost Uta. You can play more counter events and use them every turn for defense. You can play Tesoro to replenish your hand size. So it just feels like this deck has been eclipsed entirely by the green-purple Doflamingo. Other than that, I don't think there's much to say about the rest of these decks. Someone at one of the CSs also got 7-2 with King, so I have to put him around here at least, out of respect. But everything else is really not too strong of a contender for the meta as well. If I'm not wrong, a Z player did also receive results at one of the 3-on-3 tournaments in Japan, although I don't think it was the official one. And then everything else pretty much didn't make any waves either. So I'm just going to drop all of them in the unplayable tier. Oh, Kuro actually did win a flagship, now that I think about it. So we will put Kuro up here as well. And then everything else will go in this tier basically, as decks that probably aren't up to snuff with the rest of the meta at the moment. Smoker also won a flagship, now that I think about it. Okay. Okay, there we go. I realized I didn't put Uta leader here, but I think we all know where she belongs. Clearly in the S+ tier, right? But yes, okay, there you have it, guys. This is what I think about the OP04 meta going forward, even into the English meta with the restrictions. I do still believe that Newgate and Zoro will still be two of the best decks in the format, even post-restriction. And because of those restrictions as well, I think Rebecca will see a significant decrease in how good she is, as well as decks like Nami and Blue Crocodile will also see a strong decrease in how good they actually are, because of the fact that there's not going to be as many Newgates and Zoros. There's going to be more Katakuris for them. There's not much for you to smash as your Rebecca and your Crocodile and Nami. But of course, again, the English and the Japanese metas always evolve differently, so I'll be happy to revisit this again later down the line. I do also have another one of those OP04 spreadsheet chart thingies that I did for OP03, but it's taking quite a bit of time because of the fact that it is, you know, a fuck ton of leaders that I consider to be meta playable. So this is the example you see that I have. I've prepared it already. Yeah, the matchup spreadsheet is still under works, but I have the sheet prepared. I will be adjusting it accordingly to whatever I feel based on my experience. I will of course be consulting some of my friends that are mains of these decks, and then of course the red green law section I'll be able to fill up by myself because of the fact that you know, I brought it to almost every tournament too. But yeah, this is something that I'll definitely be working on, and I will let you guys know when it's ready. Hopefully it will be on YouTube within the week. I'll try to churn it out. I'll try to churn it out by Saturday, so you guys have a rough idea at least heading into the set proper. In the meantime, I hope you guys all enjoy your pre-release opening, as well as your pre-release testing and just getting new cards. It's always fun to get new cards. And I will also be, of course, working on my OP05 content. I have some deck profiles ready, especially for Katakuri, Rebecca, and Queen. And I'll also be making one for the Doflamingo deck. If you're looking for decks for Nami as well as Crocodile, for Nami, I think you should follow our Ayatora, who is the champion of the Japanese regionals. His name is Ayatora. How do I should share that on Twitter. How do I share? Let me find his Twitter. Tora. I will figure out his Twitter when I have it. But in the meantime, that will be pretty much it for today's stream. Now that I've covered the rest of the now that I've covered the tier list and everything. Do Rebecca first? Yeah, sure. I'll work out the Rebecca list first then. I've already recorded the content, I think, so I just need to post it up on YouTube. I need to edit it first, and then after that I can post it on YouTube. But to anyone else who's done editing before, you know it's a bit of a pain in the ass, as well as a time-consuming process. So I will be trying my best to get those out as soon as I can. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I hope you guys have a great OP04, and may all of you win your pre-releases and open your manga sabos. Do tweet at me if you open a manga sabo. I'd be happy to see it. Alright, make sure to follow my Twitch and my Twitter. This was originally a live stream on Twitch, and I will be trying to do more content like this again. If you liked it, make sure to drop a subscribe as well as like the video, and I will see you guys again soon. Peace out.